Final Stop Brazil, Book 2, Life After Hell, Chapter 42, Freedom. 23rd of March 2009. Since 11 days I was free. The things were happening very fast. First, I was chasing after my TV to bring it out from its inclusion and in our quarto. On the 12th of March I was finally called. I was looking forward already to be able to get it now from the inclusion. Far from it. I was quite simply informed that I must pack my things. I was now free, on parole. Like a madwoman, I ran back up the stairs to the 3rd floor and shouted, totally out of breath, "Iris, help me to pack, I'm free!" The farewell of my suffering comrades was very hearty. I left behind all my food with Iris, but was still with 3 large bags and a television at the gates of the prison, without a penny in my pocket, because the PFC was delaying with the transfer of my money so much that it had not yet arrived. The offer to give me money for a bus I rejected politely and with thanks. How should I possibly come with my things half a mile to the next stop? I asked them to order me a taxi, secretly hoping Julia or Pedro, being at home, to pay for it, otherwise I would have been returned to sender for not paying the taxi. Luck was on my side. Julia was at home, paid the taxi, and held me embraced in her arms. 10 days I was already in Julia's house, sharing the room with Julia's daughter, and well cared by everyone. On the same evening after my release, Julia met my greatest wish and let me call Michael, encouraged me also to call my mother. Michael seemed to share the joy with me, but I was not sure whether my mother even knew exactly what I was talking about. Julia's mother cooked for me, Pedro provided coffee for me, and also Julia took care of me very well while I was finally able to rewrite my book, now on computer. In this course, I listened again to Transcontinental. I really had not realized my freedom, but I was full of energy and started from the 4th day to look for work. But beforehand, I performed together with Pedro a real marathon to face all the necessary bureaucracy. He showed me where and how and when I had to take which bus or metro, walked with me to the probation office in Barafunda, where I received my identity document, which I had to carry with me from now on and every 3 months presented for signature. Then we took a bus and a metro for the last time back to the PFC, so that I could collect my money from the savings account. Pedro accompanied me to the centro, where I received another stamp in the identity document. Every day I was on the road, which was not easy. My only chance for work, I realized quickly, was anywhere teaching in a language school or working as a receptionist in a motel, maybe even in an accessorial area because of my accounting skills. Julia used her free Saturday to perform a type change on me. We took a ride into the city to buy new clothes and to have my hair cut. I didn't recognize myself anymore. Julia trumpeted out inside the hairdresser, "Now you just need a man. Rita goes for Negroes. Does not one of you know one not already occupied?" With my new style, we went then to eat açaí with banana, a very tasty and refreshing fruity affair. Açaí is a fruit from the Amazon with high nutritional value, as Julia enlightened me. In the cafe we met Rodrigo, who had seemingly great interest to assist me in finding employment. Julia gave freely her phone number so he could call me. Several times I asked Wesley to pay me my remaining money, which was after all still 3,000 reais, but he kept himself very cloudy in this matter and didn't even show up in Julia's house. After I provided him with an ultimatum, he told me suddenly that he had nothing left after balancing all the services he had done for me. I was horrified. What should I live off, build a new life with? Finally, I could not stay with Julia forever. I wrote him furious emails, threatening to file against him. But his problem, the relationship with Julia, also tensed up. Indirectly, I blamed her and held against her that he was her good friend she had recommended to me, and asked her to intervene now. Julia, however, now claimed that he was not one of her friends, but wrote him and asked him to think it over again. This he seemed to do, and finally paid me 700 reals. Thus, it was my entire property. I was still with 2,700 reals by working in the PFC, alongside the 700 reals of Wesley. I wanted no quarrel with Julia, but I secretly planned to take legal action against Wesley soon as I got some ground under my feet. But in the end, I knew that this was almost impossible, because the wheels of justice in Brazil, if they did, are grinding very slow, which I had to feel personally. To get the result of legal action against him could take years. Despite everything, I tried to make the best out of it, and was quite hot on it to go to the next live show of Exalta Samba, Pichote, or Tuma de Pagode. But this tooth Julia quickly pulled out. However, you are not going anywhere. You know that by 10 o'clock in the night you have to be inside the house. These shows are dangerous to go alone, and at the slightest difficulty you land back where you come from. Better you leave it. When I then heard the announcement by Transcontinental about the acoustic show of Pichote to be held in the afternoon, there was no stopping for me. I put everything in motion to go there, or better, to ride there, because the show should be taking place in the Cabral in Tatuapé, Zona Leste, entirely on the other side of Sao Paulo. First, I called Transcontinental to learn exactly what I had to do to be admitted inside. I was told that I had to buy and donate 3 kilograms of non-perishable food within 2 days before the show in Cabral. So I bought the 3 kilograms of non-perishable food, rice, spaghetti, and sugar, not knowing that sugar was not accepted, and went on my way to Tatuapé, half a world tour. By bus, then I took the metro. At the shopping center of Tatuapé, I finally took a taxi to Cabral, where I was smoothly rejected with my sugar. I pleaded with the bouncers to reserve me a ticket, because he announced that they were as good as gone. He may still have tickets for another hour. Far and wide was no grocery in this area in sight, so I jumped into the street to flag down a taxi, which I finally caught with the help of 3 road workers, after I enlightened them which kind of emergency it was. Also, the taxi was already occupied by a passenger, but I begged the driver to help me urgently. Laughing, he allowed me to enter, and took me and the bewildered passenger to the nearest grocery store, where I rushed in and shouted at the door, "I urgently need a kilogram of rice." All eyes were on me, as if I would have shouted robbery. I got my rice, jumped back into the taxi waiting outside. We dropped off the other passenger, and Edson put his foot down, so we quickly returned to the Cabral. There, however, I was rejected the second time with a note that all tickets had been issued. I felt like crying with anger, and those 4 kilograms of food I wanted no longer even carry with me, so I asked the taxi driver Edson to give it to people that needed it. Apart from high costs, nothing happened. To learn how to proceed and how I could get a working permission, I contacted the German consulate. Also, I had no desire at all for this Mr. Sturm, but either he was once again on vacation or had left the consulate completely, because a lady answered my call and suggested to come by personally. She offered first of all help to get a new passport issued. Surprisingly, this was done very quickly, and I was in possession of a replacement passport, looking just like a normal passport, but only with a validity of only 1 year. I was puzzled about the remark of this lady. "At least you can travel now." Since when was the German consulate involved in border crossing and flight? I could not travel yet. On the same day, I met the daughter of Julia's housekeeper, Graça. I got along splendidly with Graça, probably because I didn't look at her as a servant, but regarded her as equivalent personality. When we finally arrived on the Samba issue, She told me that her daughter liked samba and pagode very much, and every weekend she was going out with friends into clubs where live shows were performed. She invited me to her house so I could meet her daughter and was able to go out with her. I gratefully accepted the offer because, since I had my passport now, I left the parole document in the house, of course. If I should actually be controlled, I would only show the passport. I accompanied Graça to her house and was the first time in the favela Paulista. Graça's daughter was very nice and happy about my visit. Immediately, she wanted me to come along with her and the gang. Shortly afterwards, I met Edvalda, her friend. We also got along great from the start. Actually, they planned to go to a club in Pinheiros, but after we were picked up by their male friends with a car, we went to a bar not far away, where we remained the entire night. Here they did play pagode, but from the jukebox. It was a fun night. I danced a lot with the gang, had lots of fun with the bartender and other guests, drinking a lot, and for the first time in ages, caipirinha, which was fairly high percentage. I was no longer used to it now, and thus plenty tipsy of it. Life had me back. Since the subject of marriage was still on the table, I was offered volunteer help by one guy of the clique. Ugly as sin, but funny and a good dancer. He gave me his full name, showed me his papers to prove that he was not married, but I had the impression that he wanted more than just a fake marriage. At 6:30 in the morning, I was back in Julia's house. Slept until 10, got up to ask Julia what she thought about the surname of my marriage candidate as my new surname. She just looked at me incredulously. Once I took coffee, I returned to bed to sleep until 2 o'clock in the afternoon. How quickly I had found new friends here. Late in the afternoon, Edvalda picked me up to take coffee in her house. Then we were invited by the neighbors in the favela for churrasco, barbecue. We had delicious grilled meat and fish with lots of salad, bread, and lots of samba music. At some point, the entire gang turned up again with us and off we drove in the car. I hoped it would be samba this night, but far from it. We ended up in a club with live music, forró, but not samba or pagode. I didn't like it at all and went on strike, danced with no one because I didn't like the club, nor the people or the music. When I finally locked myself involuntarily in the toilet, where I was stuck for no less than 15 minutes without being able to open the door, until finally someone came into the room and pushed open the door by force, I was completely mad. I announced that I would take a taxi now to get to Pinheiros. The others didn't have the slightest idea how much I had waited a few years already to finally enjoy samba life. Edvalda didn't want to, but felt responsible for me, so she saw herself forced to accompany me, of which I was not too happy, to pay taxi and admission for both of us. It was already very late, very full, most live shows over, and from the stage I saw nothing. After 10 minutes, Edvalda grumbled she didn't like it in here. It didn't matter to me at all. I was flirting hell-bent in all directions. That guy spent me drinks and got to know Brian, a very handsome black dancer. With him I was dancing samba very close together, which was very erotic due to close physical contact. He finally asked me for my phone number, which I could not give because I had no phone. So he gave me his and made me promise to call him. I liked it so well that we almost stayed until closing time, whether it fit Edvalda or not. Then went to have a hot dog, which he invited me to, and took the bus home. Again, I was back by 6:30 in the morning. What a marathon weekend! If I thought of getting rest on Sunday, I was wrong because Julia got me up to buy the Sunday newspapers so I could study the jobs. But this had to be postponed because Gilma came with her husband to greet me. What a joy after all this time. We talked, among other things, once again about getting married, and Gilma suggested arranging a meeting with her cousin. But I felt that the solution could be found somewhere else. The guy from the clique wanted a proper marriage in any case. Yes, and Julia was having perhaps some Tony for me. On Monday I called Brian. He was very pleased with my call, and we talked and flirted for a while on the phone. I gave him the number of Julia, with the remark that he could call me at this number after 9 o'clock in the evening. In case he didn't, would he be quickly deleted from the list of namorados? I never wanted to waste time any more with unreliable men, but this was the beginning for Julia to keep a list of which men and when called for me, and there were added a few more. The very next day I was on the way to an interview in a language school. Since it was far too early in this part of the town, I sat down in a cafe. I was full of hope that finally something would work out, for it was time, because I did not want to stay forever with Julia. For her and her family, I was certainly a burden, and I was just too far from the central. A man walked into the cafe, and when he sat down next to me at the bar, I noticed how handsome he was. We started to talk, and I soon found out that I got a liking to him. Marcelo, so I learned from him, was living in Diadema in the ABCD area outside of Sao Paulo, but not too far away, reachable by bus. We exchanged phone numbers, he promised to call, and so we said goodbye. Elated, I conducted the interview, completed the test with ease, received the mandatory sentence, "We will get back to you," and returned to Julia's house. And Julia came home from work. She took out a call list of her bag and started reading with a straight face that a Brian, a Rodrigo, and a Marcelo had called for me. Marcelo even twice. Then she threw me a look which asked, "Are there any more to expect?"